in that area, kind of training them in how to do it. How do you connect with God's heart? How do you lead people in worship? Because a lot of them, they don't have, school or training or even normal houses of worship where they can really be raised up. And so he's doing a lot of that groundwork. And then I love that he said they did rock climbing with Syrian refugee girls. Like, you think about some of these kids, like you said, they've grown up in war. They've grown up not having a home because there's so much turmoil where they come from. And they're literally traveling from camp to camp just trying to make it and survive. And to be able to take some of these kids and expose them to something fun and give them a chance to have, a little excitement is such a cool opportunity. So I'm going to dive in. We're going to test something out. We're going to see if this works. Technology is fun, but it can also be a hassle. So, as today is Mother's Day, it's a perfect opportunity for me to embarrass my wife by talking about how amazing she is. I don't want to exclusively focus on her, but here's what I want to do. Here's what I realized the other day. My wife and I, we have this photos thing where both of our phones upload the pictures that we've taken to this Google Cloud Photos database. And so the other day I was going through that because I was looking for something, and I'm seeing pictures of the kids, and I'm like, I've never seen this before. And what it made me realize was she's having these moments with them, these incredible times, these incredible encounters with our kids that I'm not there for all the time because I'm working or I'm doing other things. And I think that's true of all moms. I think when we talk about celebrating mothers on Mother's Day, not just mothers, but spiritual moms and anybody who's mentored another young man or young woman, when we talk about that, a lot of times it's easy to celebrate what we have seen mothers do. It's a whole other thing to celebrate the behind-the-scenes stuff that really nobody gets to know about but you and God. And so I want to show some examples of some of those. So this is physical education for school right here. Let's see if this works. Was that me or was that you? Hey, it was me. Woohoo! Shopping. 4 kids. You can see feet sticking out the bottom there. Can you imagine? This is what she has to deal with when I'm not there. No room for groceries. Crafts, arts and crafts, always fun. Life at the stock show. My daughter just asked me this morning. She was like, Dad, did you go to the stock show with us? And I was like, no, I was busy. Mom got to take them, and she gets to have these moments and these experiences with them. Beverage time, movie time, school. What do you call these? Shadow boxes? Way better than I could ever do. Diorama. Movie time. This is the top bunk of my son's bunk bed. Watching something on the iPad. This is the one that got me. This is the one that I was scrolling through and I was like, I did not see this picture. He's okay, by the way. And then crashing out. All right, I think that's it. We can go to black. The fun thing about these guys is they're just moments that are brought to you by mom. Moments brought to you by mom. And in this case, it's my wife, but in all moms' cases, you guys go through things. You have these moments where you do something for your kids or for your spouse, all the behind-the-scenes stuff, and nobody else gets to see it. It's just you and God. And so when we talk about celebrating Mother's Day, I just want to say thank you guys for the stuff that doesn't get seen. Thank you for the stuff that you do behind the scenes where nobody knows, the funny, the crazy, the sad, the difficult. It's all in there, right? And we're just grateful for you. So thank you, moms. Yay, moms. All right, guys, so I want to share for a little bit this morning about the family of God. And I'm going to start in Acts. If you have your Bibles, we're going to go to Acts, chapter 2, verse 44. Man, I hear pages turning. I'm going to give it a second. All right, Acts chapter 2, verse 44, it says, "Now all who believed were together and had all things in common, and sold their possessions and goods, and divided them among all as anyone had need. So continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved." This is a picture of what the early church looked like, of what it looked like after Jesus rose from the dead. Pentecost has come, they're filled with the Spirit, and this baby church is beginning to grow. And I want you to think about what it's describing here. It says all who believed were together, so they came together physically. Physically, they're coming together on a regular basis. They're meeting in homes, and it says they had all things in common. Do you think that means they agreed with everything with each other 100%? No. No, what it means, but when it says they had all things in common, it means, hey, what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. Like, there's nothing that I can say, like, this is just, like, this is me time, my time. Like, now, listen, I'm not saying it's so unhealthy that it's like, you can just barge in any time and there's no sense of privacy or personal family or intimacy. But it is saying, listen, what we have to offer, we're not going to withhold. If I'm able to give something of value, of help, of benefit, I'm not going to withhold it and just keep it for myself. So it's a culture that's very open-handed, that doesn't say, hey, why are you bugging me? It's a culture that says, hey, we want to know. I actually want to seek out ways that I can bless the people around me. What I have wasn't just given to me for my own benefit. It was given to me for the benefit of others. But the other side of that also means that works great if you like to give. Are there anybody in this room that's like a giver? Are you gift givers, or you like giving to people? Like, there's a couple of us. How many of you are receivers? You love getting gifts. You're like, okay, there's a couple of those too. The problem is it's rare to find somebody who can be both. A lot of times you have somebody who is a giver, and they are great to just lavish their stuff and their heart, and what do you need? I'll be there for whatever you need. But oftentimes that person struggles to receive. And when you talk about having a community where everybody had everything in common, it's not just the givers and the takers. And it's not just the givers going, hey, we'll just keep on giving until we secretly resent you, but we're going to keep doing it because we feel guilty if we don't. Or the receivers who are like, hey, I'm good to just keep on. Yep, keep it coming. Yeah, you want to, my laundry needs to be done. Like, what else can you do? We need to have a community where we can say we can do both. To say they had everything in common, it means that I can give, but I can also receive. And I'm not just receiving from people necessarily that I like, this is my mentor. Sometimes it's receiving from somebody that you may not click with very well relationally, but they have a word for you, or they have an encouragement for you, and you can value that and treasure that. This community, they were generous. It says they sold their possessions and goods and divided them among all as anyone had need. There was no such thing as somebody who wasn't able to pay the bills. How do you think they knew who had need? They were involved in their lives. They were connected with each other. They were engaged deeply on a regular basis. They ate together. I don't know about you guys, but best way to connect with me, let's just get food. Like, especially all kinds of weird, like, there's a Denver biscuit company, and I'm bummed they're only open in the morning time because I haven't been able to get that out there yet, but I'm like, biscuits. I'm not a like, I'd make biscuits at home kind of guy, but to like just go have the experience of like, what kinds of different things are they putting on these biscuits? I'm very curious about the Denver Biscuit Company. But getting food together, guys, there's something about eating together and having meals together, and that's one of the reasons I love that we do our potluck every month. I love that we have that coming up at the end of this month and that time to sit together and connect. There's something about moving from strangers to family and learning how to become kingdom family, not just human family, but kingdom family. You know, when you go to visit someone else's house for the first time, especially someone you don't know who has a very different culture than you, sometimes it can feel awkward. I remember as a kid, anybody have any awkward play dates as a kid? I remember as a kid, like getting dropped off, and I can't even remember who the kids were, but we'd go to their house, and it was just me hanging out with them, and I'm like, so what do you want to do? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, well, let's play video games. And I was like, nah, I hate video games. Okay, well, let's go play outside. Nah, it's too hot out there. And I'm like, okay, 9-year-old David's like, well, what do you want to do? And it feels awkward. And I'm like, where's your phone? Can I call my mom? Sometimes we have those family moments where it's not natural, it's not organic, it doesn't click right away, and it's difficult. I've had other moments, though, and I'm sure many of you have too, where you walk in the door and you're instantly family. One of the coolest moments I experienced on this was on the World Race. On the World Race, our second month of the World Race, what we were supposed to have done, the idea was we were given a country, and we were supposed to pray about what we were supposed to do in that country, and then find a place to go and go do it. You have no idea how difficult that is when you don't know anybody in the country. Now, thankfully, I was connected to a large group of pastors and ministry leaders, and so I was able to reach out, and we found a host home, and they were like, we just need a place to stay for like 3 days while we figure out like our next leg in the journey, and someone else was trying to coordinate all this. So finally, we end up getting a hold of somebody in Australia, and they're like, yeah, we'll host you, come on over, we have kids, you're going to have to be on the floor. We're like, that's great, we don't care, we'll be wherever. We have tents with us, we'll be in your backyard if we need to. And so we show up at their home, and the husband was actually, he's a famous newscaster in Brisbane, Australia. Like, he's one of their top guys. He's the guy going around in helicopters talking about flooding, and like everybody, he's the trusted news guy. And their kids, we got to meet them, and they're like gymnasts and athletes, and like their daughter was actually wasn't she in the Olympics or in some kind of pre-Olympic training? Yeah, the Olympic gymnastics team. So we got to stay with this family, and the second we walked in the door, they like hugged us. They got to know us. They had no clue who we were. They'd never heard of the World Race before. And they took us in. They set our bags out for us. And then the husband was like, we want to give you a good old-fashioned Australian bobby, which is barbecue. And he's like, so he took me to the grocery store, and he's telling me what to pick out, and we're going around. And we come back, and they grill like these amazing meats and halloumi cheese on the grill and stuff that just would blow your mind. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because instantly it was like we weren't strangers to them. Not once did we feel like strangers to them. They went above and beyond. They gave us everything they had. And instantly it was like you walk in the door and what we have is yours. And they provided the best meal I think any of us had had, probably most of the race. That was like one of the top moments. We ate together, we prayed together, we talked together, and we felt like family. It doesn't matter if you're coming from different cultures. You don't have to have awkward family encounters and family experiences. And so when we talk about what it means to be kingdom family, we want to be a family that says, when you walk in the door here, we want you to have that experience of you are instantly family. What we have is yours. How can we pray for you? One of the things I want to encourage all of us to do is when somebody new is here, greet them, connect with them. I would rather have people feel overwhelmed with people coming to greet them and say hi than not have somebody visit with them. And when you do that, ask questions. What's your life? What's your story? What brought you here? Who are you? Let's get to know them and invite them and welcome them in. Let's make a meal for them emotionally if we can't physically. But the thing is, even physically, after church, we can go out. Let's grab lunches together. It's really tough for Catherine and I. You can ask Pastor Joel and his wife. Lunch with our with our family can be difficult. But it is fun. And you know, and it's worth it. It's worth it. But getting out to do that together. The last thing I want to tell you about this piece of it is the World Race. One of the interesting experiences we had was we're on this trip for 11 months, 11 countries, almost a whole year, and we're with a team of 4 or 5 other people, and we're with that team all year long. What do you think are the odds that we all got along with each other? Yeah, you can say that. Oh, man. It was, and here's the other thing. My specific team just happened to be all women. So it was my wife and me and like 4 or 5 other women, the whole race. I think we had another man on the trip once, and he was the quietest, shyest, like we did not click even a little bit. So I'm on this team with these women, and at first, and Kath will tell you, like all I could notice was just the stuff that bugged me. And I think we do that with each other. When we think about how we live together in the U.S., if you don't like being around somebody, what do? You leave, right? I don't have to be here. Even if I have to be in this room, I don't have to be right here next to you. I'm going to go walk over here. I couldn't do that. And there were things, I'll tell you, honestly, I need to apologize to some of them for some of the things that I said to my wife in private. Because one of them in particular, I remember just thinking, man, she's so entitled. She's never had to work. Her parents have done everything for her. She just walks in the room. You know what she walked in the room like? She walked in the room like a princess. And at the time, I thought that was a bad thing. Now I can see the beauty of that. Now I can see how she knew who she was and she knew what she was worth. And it took me 11 months, guys, let me tell you. It was actually maybe month 9.5 that I began to realize these women that have frustrated me to the ends, and we've given each other feedback at night. We'd sit around in a circle. What frustrated you today? Well, you frustrated me. We would do that with each other. But after 9.5 months, I realized these girls are my sisters. I love them more deeply than I could have ever thought possible. Everything that I looked at as a flaw, it doesn't mean they're gone. What it means is that's not what I look at when I see them. I don't look at the flaws. I don't see the dirt. I see the gold. And that shifted everything for me. When I realized I didn't have the option of walking away, and that forced me to stay long enough to see the gold. That changed everything for me. John chapter 13, verse 34 and 35, Jesus said, "So I give you now a new commandment. Love each other just as much as I have loved you." I love how the Passion Translation says this. Love each other just as much as I have loved you. For when you demonstrate the same love I have for you by loving one another, everyone will know you're my true followers. Everyone will know that we are true followers of Jesus by our love for one another. It doesn't mean we never get frustrated with each other. But it means when we do, we're not making that the point that defines the other person. We're not putting that badge right on their chest, and every time we look at them, we're seeing that thing that frustrates me. It means instead of that, we're seeing the gold beneath. We're looking for who God designed them to be, for what he's placed inside of them, and we're making that the name badge, the label that we put on them. What would happen if we looked at each other and instead of seeing the humanity and the frailty and the stuff we're working through, right, we're works in progress, and instead saw God's design inside of each other, the peace that he placed there, the beauty, the life, the calling, the destiny. Maybe we're not even 100% in it yet, but we can still see that and bless that and call that forth. What would happen if that's how we defined each other? Everyone will know that we're his true followers by how we love each other. When people walk in the room, they can sense, they can smell when we're frustrated with each other, when we have an issue that we haven't discussed or dealt with. How many of you guys have seen, like on social media, so many times I see Christians posting things that are just, it's nonstop, it's just criticism, or it's just, tearing down another leader because they said this or they did this. And it's like, and usually it's Christians against other Christians. And when the world sees that, they go, I don't want to be a part of that. Right now, I'm safe. You're not talking about me right now. But as soon as I become a Christian, I see what you do to other Christians. When we use our words to tear each other down, they don't know we're true followers of Jesus. They don't have an accurate representation of who he is. A family that is inviting and welcoming and not awkward is looking for the gold in every single person. In every single person that walks through the door, the question we should ask is inside. You don't want to say, hey, where's the gold? but asking ourselves, what has God placed in this person? What's the life? What's the calling? What's the destiny? And how can I be a small part of blessing that and calling that forth? When we do see dirt, we need to be careful that we're not using that as ammunition. We want to give feedback that keeps our connection on. Something I've learned in marriage, if I just give feedback just for the sake of feedback and I pay no attention to how it's given, I'm going to have a bad day. When I give my wife feedback, I want to give it with the highest goal not being that she correct her behavior. The highest goal in my giving feedback to my wife is to keep our connection on. The highest goal is to keep our connection. And so when I'm giving feedback, often the feedback is, hey, this is making me struggle a little bit with our connection, and I want to be more connected. What can we do about this? How can I help with this? What can I bring here? When we do it in the sense of you, what you're doing, how does that feel? Does that make anybody ready to shift into a connecting mode? No, that makes me like, shh, oh yeah, I'll show you. You know, feedback has to be done in a way that doesn't break things. We can't be passive aggressive with it. Passive aggression says, there's something I need to tell you, but I'm too afraid or I don't care enough to tell you directly. And so I'm going to make a comment that implies what I want to tell you, but I can just as easily withdraw that comment if I feel threatened. I was just kidding. I didn't mean it. I was just, passive aggression is our way of giving feedback without actually giving feedback. Whereas we can say, look, the way that you communicated this to me really stressed me out. Is there any way you could try to communicate that a little differently because I want to be connected with you? Or is there something I can do differently that would help you? You being late for this really made things difficult. And I would ask if you could please be considerate and not be late. Like, there's things we need to communicate with each other in a way that's not passive aggressive. When we do it in a wrong way, giving feedback that's designed to give life actually feels like death. Yesterday, I have a story about this. Yesterday, we decided to give our cat a bath. Yeah. Our cat is a barn cat. Yeah. Karen's already shaking her head. Our cat is a barn cat. We inherited it. When it came, it was terrified. It was. I don't know that it had been around people very much, although in personality we've discovered he loves to be around people. But he, let's just say all kinds of waste product was in the crate when we received him. So we did a light washclothing with him and then left it alone and gave him 3 months to just settle in. 3 months to settle in. He snuggled with us. He stunk up the house, my daughter's room particularly. He's a sweet cat, and we're like, all right, we think he's ready. He's settled in enough. So yesterday we go to give him a bath, and the water was probably up to his leg, but I put him in, and oh my gosh, I know exactly what that cat was thinking. That cat was thinking, the return policy is coming into play right now. They're about to kill me. I'm dead. It was flipping out, and he's scratching, and we're just trying to hold him and not trying to hurt him, but we're like, this cat smell's got to shift. Like, we know we don't wash a cat like all the time. He's an indoor cat, but we need one good washing here. So during that course of us trying to do something that was meant to be a blessing, he didn't know that it was a blessing. And so you see these bandages on my arm. I have a very deep bite mark that he got me. It's my little vampire puncture wounds on my arm. So see, lesson learned. Well, hopefully we won't need it again. I bring up that story, though, to illustrate the point. If you're giving feedback and the other person doesn't know that what you're bringing is love, that's how they're going to respond. Now, we want a culture that brings feedback. Listen, if we're not authentic with each other, if we don't share, hey, this is an area that would help me. This is where I'd like us to grow. This is how you and me can keep strong connection or grow it to the next level. We have to be able to do that with each other. That's how we have everything in one accord. It's not that we agree with everything. It's that we're willing to be real and give each other feedback. But if you don't do it in a way that the other person knows it's love, if you don't do it in a way that's calling out the gold, you might get that kind of a response. Philippians 2:3-5 says, "Be free from pride-filled opinions, for they will only harm your cherished unity. Don't allow self-promotion to hide in your hearts, but in authentic humility, Put others first and view others as more important than yourselves. Abandon every display of selfishness. Possess a greater concern for what matters to others instead of your own interests. And consider the example that Jesus, the Anointed One, has set before us. Let his mindset become your motivation. If I'm going to consider what matters to others as greater importance than my own interests, how should I structure a conversation with that person? What do you think? If I want to tangibly demonstrate that I have a greater concern for what matters to others instead of my own interests, how do I demonstrate that in relationship with another person in conversation? Ask questions. I think that's perfect. Listen, right? Listen. How many of you guys, listen, one of our biggest temptations, in that this is not pointing a finger at anybody, this is a human being, all of us kind of thing. We all do this. I struggle with this a lot. You ask a question, somebody shares, and then you go, oh yeah, well, I have something that happened like that. You know what I mean? And then instantly, what does the conversation become about? It's become about you. I do that a lot, guys, and I'm sorry. I apologize right now to anybody that I've done that to. We got to work on that. Because what happens in a society, in a culture, in a community, in a family, where we're both trying to do that with each other. We're both trying to listen to each other more. We're trying to know each other more. We're trying to hear each other more. We're trying to ask each other questions more. What's going to happen is your knowledge of each other is going to deepen. Your connection is going to deepen. And when other people walk in the room, they're going to know that they're cared for, that their story is important, because we've created a culture where the habit is to find out more about the person I'm standing next to and show them that we care. Why is this important? The last part of what we read at the beginning in Acts 2 says that they were adding daily to their number those who were being saved. Every day, those who were being saved were being brought into their number. To have a culture where we can say, this is a safe place for people that are being saved and to come and be saved, it requires us to create a culture that says we're a place that cares about each other and we care about hearing your story. We want to know who you are. We want you to be a part of this. And we don't hide our problems. We don't sweep them under the rug. We're not going to passively aggressively talk about you to other people when I have a problem with you. We're going to talk to you. The Message says in Matthew 5, verses 14 through 16, it says, here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. I love that. Bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine, keep open house, be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. We are called to be houses of light. It's not just you are the light of the world. It's the Texas you. It's y'all. Not just you are the light of the world. Y'all are the light of the world. One of the patterns that we see biblically is that when there's divine order, God shows up, and then people are set free. And if you look scripturally throughout the Bible, you look before the world was made, there was chaos. God brings divine order and then fills it with people. And then you go into the tabernacle. When they built the tabernacle, there was divine order. God's like, this is the structure of the tabernacle. And then his presence shows up, and people are brought into freedom, into the promised land. You look at Jesus when he came, and you look at Acts. There's always this sense of God saying, here's the right structure of things. Then my presence drops. Then people are set free. In Acts 2, they come, and Jesus said, before you go out into the world, you need the Holy Spirit. So there's divine order. They go and they receive the power of the Holy Spirit. They're in community with each other. His presence comes, and then people come and they're set free. So the reason that I'm talking about this today isn't just because I want us to be nice to each other. It's because we want to have divine order here. We want his presence to come. We don't want his presence to come to a place where it's just, well, I'm doing good over here and I don't know anything about those people over there. Or, we want him to come, and he's going to come in a place where that says, we are brothers, we are sisters, we are mothers, we are fathers. I am hungry for your success every bit as much or more than I want for myself. And that, God goes, oh, I can get close to that. I want to be near to that. I want to encourage all of us to create a place where we are constantly encouraging each other. Not fake. Don't give fake compliments. Find the real gold that's in people and call that out. Bless each other. Pray for each other. Know what's happening in each other's lives. Go out for lunch together. Listen, one of the coolest things that you can do is to ask God on a consistent basis, what do you want to say to this person? Ask Holy Spirit, do you want to give me a word for this person? I would love for this to become a place where weekly, one person or another is saying, I was praying for you and I felt like God said this. We want to be a community where his word flows like that. We're called to be houses of Acts, houses of miracles and healing and deliverance. But sometimes that starts with just having a deep connection here with each other and becoming a place that is a house of light and an invitational family. So I want to end by asking if we could just get real quick, we can do this briefly, but get in groups of 3 or 4. Play musical chairs a little bit. Get with people you don't know. And I want to ask you to just pray for each other. Just ask, what can I pray for? And just take a couple minutes and let's just practice this and just pray for each other real quick. So everybody stand. And Calvin, if we could put some of the quiet music on, that would be great.